All right, time for a little update. Since some of you were so kind as to subscribe back when I was doing the OpenClaw 30 days test, here's what's going on today as of late April 2026. So I started out with OpenClaw. As you've seen in the videos, you saw that. It was all kinds of problems. Then I was using Claude with Cowork. I used Perplexity Computer for a month. That was pretty good, but it was really expensive, really token heavy. And I could tell that I wasn't gonna get as much out of that, especially at the token usage, because they give you 35,000 tokens when you sign up. But it's the actual plan, if you're paying for it on Perplexity Max, is like 10,000. And I could burn that up in like one app or one major research presentation, whatever. So for me, it was way cheaper to just use Lovable with Claude. Those two together, yeah, you're still obviously paying for it, but I got exponential the results. So now I've set up Hermes. Well, step back. First, I started using Paperclip a couple weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago, and that is awesome. Paperclip is so nice. It does what I wanted my OpenClaw to do, but it's really organized. It allows you to set up multiple companies, multiple projects, silo all of your agents into that. You can create agent teams. It's all running off of Claude, off of your Claude Max subscription. So I was getting just massive usage from Claude Code and from Claude in terms of research. All of my agents had very specific roles and skills. All of that worked really, really well. The problem was I went to Asia, as I live in Latin America. So I had to kind of set up everything on the laptop because I tried to use Tailscale to port in so I could use it on my phone and get into my desktop and on the laptop to the desktop. That didn't really work very well. Anytime the IP would change or something, if I'm using a VPN, boom, suddenly I'm locked out. So that wasn't the best setup. So I had Paperclip set up 2 separate instances. This is the problem with it, is they're completely siloed only to the machine that you were using. So desktop had one Paperclip and the laptop had another Paperclip. Now, they were still using a central source of truth because the Obsidian Vault is synced across all devices. Nice, goes through their Obsidian's cloud feature and it syncs. And so all of the skills, all of the documents, all of the hierarchy for each company, everything was all the same, but it still is not exactly the same. Running the same task, same issue in Paperclip from 2 different devices, for whatever reason, it's not the same. And so you get different results. So I'm like, well, even with a central source of truth with Obsidian, it still isn't working. So what do? Well, now my solution is, okay, I set up Hermes to try it out, see if it works better than OpenClaw. Definitely does. No issues, working really well. I set it up through OpenRouter on Kimi, the new Kimi 2.6. And I cut my Claude Max subscription back to a 5 instead of the 20. And I repurposed that savings into OpenRouter. And so far, it's a lot cheaper running Hermes Agent using Kimi 2.6. So that's cool. But then I'm like, oh, wait a second. I just have it on one device. So even though I can connect through Discord and Telegram and everything, and now it's finally all working, what I was trying to do a couple months ago with OpenClaw, Hermes Agent is finally working, but it still is siloed off. So what can I do? So my temporary solution with a long-term goal is I moved everything. I moved on my public-facing sites because I want to get away from Lovable and just use Claude Code or Codex or whatever the best GLM, whatever the best coding AI tool is over time. I don't want to be locked into one. And so right now I'm using Claude Code. For me, it's been the best one. But Lovable, I don't need as much anymore, except for like internal things. And the problem, and this really pissed me off, I was paying for prerender.io with Cloudflare Worker because Lovable creates this like spa React thing, which is really cool. It's really fast, looks beautiful, but it's terrible for SEO and AEO. So even if you have your robots text and your LLMS text files, they can't read anything on the page. Nothing. No text is visible. Only like the meta tag from the main site is visible in the sites that Lovable does. So I tried Lovable HTML. That was terrible. I got rid of that very quickly. It didn't do any good. And then from lots of pushing and prompting from Claude, I set up prerender.io because the SEO and AEO is really important with, you know, public-facing sites, client sites, my company sites, etc. Come to find out a month later, that it still isn't readable, that it's not working because of the way that the cache works on pre-render. Like, it only caches for a few days. So I'm like, I just spent a bunch of money to do this, to have the pre-rendering so that supposedly the HTML would be readable by bots, and it wasn't. So what's the solution? Well, I can go to Vercel with Next.js and redo everything, or I can do this. I'm just talking out of my ass here. I'm just repeating things that the AI explained to me. I don't exactly know how it works. I'm not that technical, but I can do Astro on Coolify, on Hetzner, which is a lot cheaper server than like Amazon VPS or something like that, or Amazon AWS. So I set up a Hetzner Coolify server, moving all of my sites with Claude Code. It's redoing every single site, which is worth it because it doesn't cost me anything. And I'm gonna be able to cut all of that cost from Lovable because I'm not using it that much anymore, because I've built what I wanted to build for those sites. And now that I really know Claude Code much better, I can just do it through Claude Code. So I'm getting a huge savings there. I'm gonna be able to get rid of pre-render. I'm gonna be able to get rid of Vercel, Supplebase, these things that I was paying for, and just have my own VPS on Hetzner. So I got to thinking, well, what if I just do that with Paperclip? Will that work? Can I run one single Hermes agent for my executive assistant to control all of my paperclips? Because now Hermes agent is, you don't need the adapter anymore. It's built into Paperclip on the recent releases. So I can have my one assistant, because Paperclip doesn't have mobile, that can connect to all of my Paperclip companies. And all of those are set up with their own CEO and their own agents and everything. But I can have one executive assistant that can deal with any company as long as it's in one central place. And so I moved all of my Paperclip stuff into a VPS that now Hermes lives in as well. And so I have one central source of truth. And this is separate from all the live sites. Those are on a separate Coolify. And I can get rid of Obsidian Sync, because there's something called Live Sync that you can do on a VPS that syncs all of your Obsidian devices, or all of your devices that are connected to Obsidian or using Obsidian. And so I can still have one central source of truth with Obsidian, one central Paperclip instance that I can access from any device, one single Hermes agent or OpenClaw agent. I can run OpenClaw on the server as well if I want to, but what's the point? Because Hermes works much better. I haven't had any issues, and it's much cheaper than OpenClaw. So far, I haven't found anything that OpenClaw could do or supposedly could do that Hermes agent can't do. So it's all set up in one single spot. And for long term, because I want to move this to my own servers with my own local LLMs, right? For the long term, then it's simply of just one big chunk that you move from the VPS to your own machine, and you can run everything locally. So long term, that'll be the goal. For the short term though, I've got everything centralized. So now if I'm traveling, now if I'm anywhere, everything is all connected finally, and it actually works finally. And it was working before. It was just kind of clunky because sometimes I'd be on the desktop and be doing something, and so I'd be on the laptop and trying to do something with the same company, and it wasn't working. So, I mean, it was, but it wasn't as ideal as it should be. It wasn't as efficient as it should be. And so now I can just cut a bunch of stuff that I was using, add a few little things, be much more efficient, much more cost effective, all sort of connected and one central source of truth in terms of knowledge base. And I have a lot more control over the output and where it is, and there's not so many different moving parts, and I'm completely not locked in to any frontier model. I can switch back and forth on any of them. So if I decide I don't like Kimi, I can go back to Anthropic, or I can use Gemini, or I can use Grok, or whatever, like, because it's all much simpler than it was 2 months ago. I guess April, March, February, yeah, 2 months ago. Like 60 days ago, 70 days ago, 80 days ago. This was way more complicated than it is today. Not because I was necessarily making it more complicated, probably also true, but because the advancements of the technology that's out there, that's available, and the agentic universe has just grown leaps and bounds in 2 months. So it's exciting to continue riding this wave. It's fun. It's productive now. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be sharing more because I'm working on a presentation that I'm going to be doing about some of these things that I'm going to be giving, like a live talk and a live demonstration. And so this is really gonna put my money where my mouth is and where the rubber meets the road, because I have to have this live demonstration. I have a very ambitious goal for it, so it has to really work in the background while I'm giving my presentation, while I'm giving my talk. And then, there'll be the reveal at the end, and everything just has to have worked. So that means that my Hermes agent has to really do a good job of interfacing with the CEO of the company, and all of the agents have to do their jobs, and all of the APIs have to work, and it has to design and build everything that's going to be built. A lot of moving parts, but I know it's possible because I've done every part of what I'm going to have set up to happen live, automated. I've done it all manually, and I've done it all in pieces, semi-automated. And so I think that as long as there's a very, very clear plan and goal and structure for what I want the agents to do, that it should work out and should work behind the scenes. And really, so what I'm going to be focusing on and testing now the next couple of weeks, now that I have everything sort of centralized in one place, I think it'll be much more efficient for me to use for my own projects and own companies, is just automating tons of this stuff that everyone says you can automate, but I haven't been able to fully automate yet, like creating social media slideshows, for example. So I know how to get it to write blogs and write all the social posts and create the prompts for the images for Nano Banana, and even all the stuff that goes along with that, all the meta descriptions and all that stuff. But there's still some manual stuff to get it to then go post. So I want to automate all of that so I can just basically tell my agent, hey, I just had this idea while I was out for a run. Write a blog about this. Do the research, get the images, write the blog, write all of the different social captions, create a slideshow for TikTok and Instagram, etc., and have it do that. And it's all possible. And I know that it's not just hype that I'm seeing on X, because I've done all of these things with APIs now through Paperclip, which is cool. The question is just, can you truly create a zero human company and be the idea generator and tell them to go do this stuff and have it actually be researched, written, images, posted, published, social captions, posted? Can all of that truly be automated? I think so. I haven't done it yet. Not completely the whole process from step 0 to step 100 of that. There's still is like, oh, we need you to do this. So a lot of this stuff with the CLI and the MCP servers and the API access and all those things, I'm going to be depending heavily on Claude Code and my Hermes agent now, because I won't need to use Claude Code so much because the agent can do it, or the agent could interface with the proper person. I think in the pantheon of my agents, the programming engineer is Daedalus. So Hermes agent can interface with him or it and make it happen. And then I don't have to be so involved in the loop other than just the initial setup of the accounts and getting the API keys and stuff. So that's what's in the works for the next couple weeks. But it's been a fun journey the last like 2.5 months roughly. Since the beginning of February when I was playing with OpenClaw and started my 30-day thing, which failed. Well, it did fail. My goal of 100x in 30 days definitely failed. But I learned a ton through that process, and co-work was really good. And then now with Paperclip, I don't need co-work anymore because Paperclip does a way better job. And now with Hermes Agent and Paperclip, I mean, then Claude just kind of runs in the background. And so I'm not so heavily dependent on Anthropic, right? Which we don't want to be so heavily dependent on them or on OpenAI or on anybody. And you can sort of shift between models, and this whole agentic universe is just changing so fast with that in mind. And of course, for those who are setting up their own local LLMs on your own machines and stuff, and you're doing all this locally, but good for you. That's the long-term goal. So if you got the cash to drop in that, and you're confident that it's not going to be outdated in 6 months, that would be my concern right now with dropping $20,000 on machines and local models. Is like, this is all just moving so fast that maybe the hardware, I mean, a Mac Studio, like there's a lot of stuff that you can't upgrade later, right? Because Mac locks you in. So it's almost, then you almost have to get into the whole hardware side of things and learn how to build a Linux. I mean, if you're that person, that's awesome. I'm jealous. I built some PCs like in the early 2000s, and then I switched to Mac and never looked back. So not really necessarily in my wheelhouse, but I'll go back to that if need be when the time comes. Right now, just want to figure out how to get the digital portion of all of this working and as productive as I possibly can make it, and keep riding the wave. So hopefully something in this was useful to somebody. It's definitely been a journey. I've been attempting to use everything that I could find out there. I really honestly feel like I'm way behind now, like the last few weeks, because I started using Paperclip, and I saw all this stuff about Hermes for the last month. And I was like, it's too much like OpenClaw. I don't want to try and mess with that again. That was too frustrating. I'm just gonna keep using Paperclip with Claude. But now that I'm using it over the last few days, I'm glad I switched, or at least gave it a shot, because it is really, really nice. It does what code can do, basically, but in the way you can communicate with it like you can with OpenClaw. And it's just a lot more resilient and proactive. It just goes and does, and doesn't keep making excuses. And yeah, a lot of stuff, even with Paperclip, with Claude underneath it, I had a lot of issues with stuff like getting blocked for me to have to approve or whatever, or give some key. And it seems like Hermes is just getting after it and not making excuses and getting blocked. So hopefully now, with Hermes agent as my right hand, controlling the Paperclip companies and all of those instances, that will be a lot more efficient. And it's set up Discord, which is cool, because now I have my CEOs from each of the Paperclip companies in Discord. I think the Paperclip interface is still a bit lacking on the output. They don't always, I'm used to Claude LLM, where it gives you really nice output with the markdown files or with spreadsheets or whatever, the HTML. Like, it does a really nice job of presenting that once it creates what you ask it to create. Paperclip doesn't. It's like, here's all the stuff. I'm like, well, make a spreadsheet. No, we can't do that. I don't know why. It says it has the skills, but then it just outputs and it's hard to find sometimes. So I found that Paperclip, the interface for the output is kind of clunky. The way that it works and the way that the agents interface together and stuff is awesome. The organization of the hierarchy of the agents is really where its strength is. But I had my Hermes agent set up Discord to where, and I don't really like Discord that much, but until I make my own interface better with my own dashboard, I don't really care for Slack or Discord. But I think Discord is simpler to use than having to deal with Slack. So we set all that up to where then the output is going to have to go into Discord, because I don't want to have to go log into the Paperclip thing and look for the file or whatever. Throwing it back to the 70s here in Mexico. So I don't know if you can hear that music. You might not be able to hear it, but I want to just be able to have a nice output of markdown files, spreadsheets, HTML. Those are the three main ones that I use when I'm asking it to give me some information or a presentation or something. And I think that that'll work better in the Discord server now than it was just in Paperclip. So the hierarchy is going to be me, my agent, and the CEOs of the different companies, but me over my agent, he's over all the CEOs. He's going to be on the board too. So then I can directly interface through Discord with any CEO that I want. So I don't have to talk to the agent, because why would I spend on Kimmy if I can just go straight to my agent that's running on Claude until they cut that off. Once they cut off the Claude Max subscription through Paperclip, you running on the back end, which I'm sure they will at some point soon, because it seems like they're just cutting everything. At that point, then I'm going to have to be using other models and stuff underneath Paperclip. So then it becomes a question of, well, do I even need the CEOs? Poor Ponos, he might not be useful anymore, because then I'm just going to be using my one right-hand agent as the CEO of each one of the Paperclip companies. I still want the agent teams, because each of those people, or each of those agents, does specific things in their Paperclip instance in that company. You have your, your researcher, your web guy, your competitive analysis guy, the engineer, the code guy, the social media guy, etc. So I don't want to mix those at all. But I think, especially the way that the Hermes agent is set up to learn and have memory, I might just be able to have one CEO eventually. But I'm not going to worry about that yet. That's just like if Anthropic cuts off the use of Paperclip, or if it doesn't make sense to be them paying a different model like Kimmy or Quinn or whatever it is. At that point, then maybe I'll just have one. But for now, I'm going to be setting up me, my Hermes agent, all of the CEOs. We're going to be in Telegram and in Discord. And then the Paperclip lives on the VPS with the Obsidian Vault, and I can access it from anywhere. And that will make it much more efficient. And then underneath it, just constantly add the best models and keep building. And I have a ton more control now. So that's exciting. This was kind of a long-winded rant. I'm gonna get back to running down the hill now that the sun went away. Thank you for listening. Keep building with agents and AI. And remember that humans and soft skills are going to be really valuable in the coming months and years. So learn how to use these AI tools, but also keep developing your human skills, because it's going to have value. Good luck.